Welcome back, Mr. Goodberry. The First Star Logistics studio is fully equipped and ready to record.
Welcome back to Bengals on the Brain, presented by First Star Logistics. I'm your host, Joe Goodberry, episode 191, as we're approaching episode 200 between First Star and myself, and that seems exciting. It's every time I put in the number of what episode it is, I'm like, wow, because it goes so fast. Time flies, and if you've been spending all summer thinking about the Bengals, as we did the last couple episodes, looking at the positives and the negatives, well, the waiting is over. Training camp is about to start. By the time you see this episode, it should be the next day. The 23rd is the first day of camp. But rookies reported on Saturday. So we've got our first bit of news. This will be a news roundup. If you've taken the summer off and did not think about the Bengals and they were not on your brain and you tried to enjoy yourself, well, I envy you. And this is the episode for you because we're going to go over all the news of the last week or so, the current news, not everything that's happened over the offseason. We're not going to recap that. We're the people that have stayed with us, we're not doing that. We're not rehashing. But what's happened in the last 24 to 48 hours? There's a lot going on. Not big stuff, but enough moves to get the Bengals ready for training camp. And we're going to start it with rookies reporting on Saturday, of course. And that means Demetrius Knight signed with the Bengals. And Demetrius Knight, why this is important? Because second round picks, we're kind of in a stalemate there. The first few guys got guaranteed contracts, typically, as we've talked about with the Shemar Stewart situation. We'll talk about it in a few moments here. First rounders, since the 2011 collective bargaining agreement, the CBA, have gotten guaranteed contracts. Second rounders have not. And the first few guys in the second round this year got it, and everyone in the NFL said, whoa, hang on. What do we do? And what we started to see was the top 8 to 10 guys were getting fully guaranteed. And then the next started dropping off. It started being like 95%, 93%, 91%, 88%, 89%. That's out of order, but you know what I'm saying. It got down to Demetrius Knight, and there was different reports at 80, one said 75, one said 78. So it's in that range, within the area. But he got guaranteed money into year 4, which is the first time that has happened for a second round pick or at that spot where they picked him. What does all that mean? It means he's in camp and ready to go, which is nice for the Bengals, nice for Demetrius Knight, who has I think he's pretty much starting. I was going to say he's got a great shot to start, but I think he's going to start. I think he's going to play a ton for this Bengals defense, and I'm excited for him. He's already seems like a smart, heady dude that has great leadership and has the intangibles and mindset that I want this defense to have. So I'm excited for tonight, and I'm excited to see him on the field. The other half of that is that Shemar Stewart is still not signed with the Bengals, and he didn't show up. You can't show up, actually. If you don't have a contract, you can't just go and get on the field and stand and watch anymore. It's not minicamp. It's not rookie OTAs. Only players that are contractually tied to the Bengals are on that field once training camp kicks off. And that means Shemar's not here. And the weird part is he's working out, or at least he's posted pictures, like you'll see here, at Texas A&M while they're working out. So I don't know if he's working out there, just observing, just staying fit, whatever it may be. The weirder part, and the part that pushes the story forward, is that now that second round picks have these guaranteed contracts, like Demetrius Knight, he has now accepted that language that we talked about with the Shemar Stewart situation. The default language that says, hey, if you mess up, if you go hang gliding and injure yourself, if you get suspended, if you get arrested, your future guarantees are now earnable, but not guaranteed anymore. Demetrius Knight accepted that language, and that was reported by Kelsey Conway that Demetrius Knight has now accepted it. It is now no longer new precedent for the Bengals to offer this to their draft picks. Now, it is, you could say, well, it's new precedent for first rounders because Miles Murphy and Amarius Mims didn't have this in their contract. Clock's ticking, man. We got to get him on the field, and we got to get this guy helping this team out. And I think the Bengals want that, and I think Shemar Stewart's camp should want that as well, obviously. But here we are, and he's not there. And I even put a poll up on Twitter saying, all right, if Trey Hendrickson leads the team in defensive end snaps. Who's the next guy that takes the most snaps? Now that we know that Shemar's not going to be here for day one of camp, we don't think. I mean, you've got clock's ticking, right? We've heard nothing of any movement. And it was almost split evenly, Joseph Osai and Miles Murphy. And I even throw up Cedric Johnson and Cam Sample to say, hey, there's a chance. But Shemar Stewart was in there, ended up with 7% of the votes. It just tells you where we're at right now. This is a guy that I expected to start and help this defense in whatever way he could, right? I wasn't the highest on Stewart coming out, but they need some defensive end snaps. They need some run defense at defensive end, losing Sam Hubbard. And I thought Stewart could at least help with that. And now he is way behind as the Bengals get ready for training camp. They made a bunch of moves to get that roster to 90. Let's check those out now. The first two moves are that the Bengals placed two players on the physically unable to perform list. The one is the active for Eric All, because obviously he got hurt while playing last year. He's expected to miss the entire season. I think it'll be a blow to this tight end room, to this offense. I think Eric All would have been a nice compliment to this Bengals run game, especially. And I want to see what his upside was. So it's a shame that we won't have him not expected for 2025. The other one is Seth McLaughlin, who was non-football because it was not with the team. It was before. It's from college. Bengals, in a second there, signed a center to replace McLaughlin. In the meantime, we don't know what this means for the long-term McLaughlin, even just 2025. We've seen guys like this before, whether it was Tanner McLaughlin last year, Seth McLaughlin. I want to make sure. But Tanner McLaughlin, very similar. Eric All, I think, started on the PUP list last year as well, and then were quickly removed. All was. So McLaughlin could be, Seth McLaughlin could be removed quickly and join the team in practice, or this could last until the first 6 weeks, first 10 weeks of the season before you can remove him from that PUP list. Then they waived and released guard Tashawn Manning and quarterback Logan Woodside, two guys that were fringe roster players in this league, although there was some people that really liked Manning coming out as a prospect. The Bengals released him, and they did sign an offensive lineman and a quarterback, Andrew Rame, who is a center from Oklahoma, was with the Carolina Panthers last year, did not play in the regular season at all. He's scored really low for us of the 2024 prospects. He's one of the lowest interior offensive linemen we scored. He had low RAS, not a great athlete, and didn't perform well based on PFF. But in his preseason performances, he looked all right, and he made their 53-man roster. So he just didn't play as, Panthers ended up having a decent offensive line. But Andrew Rame is a direct correlation to Seth McLaughlin going on the PUP list. You need a third center. There was actually some debate on Twitter before the Bengals made this move, which I thought was funny that it happened right away. But they were saying, is it Lucas Patrick going to be center 2 and Matt Lee is center 3? Who are they going to move there if McLaughlin's not ready? And quickly we learned that Andrew Rame would be signed and moved to that spot. The interesting signing, the fun signing for Bearcat fans, for Cincinnati fans, is that Desmond Ridder is the quarterback that will replace Logan Woodside at QB3. And this is a guy that's Zach Taylor has spoken highly of throughout his career. He recruited him. And Cincinnati fans love Desmond Ridder, right? And he didn't have the career I think a lot of people hoped he could have. He was a middling NFL prospect. But as a backup, he's going to play in this league for 10 years. And I think he's going to bring the professionalism to the back half of that roster that maybe Logan Woodside did not. That was always the knock on him. And this helps. I don't know how much QB3 plays, but this is a guy that can learn from Jake Browning and Joe Burrow and fits well in that locker room. So that's fun. And I think a lot of Bengals fans may buy some preseason tickets to watch Desmond Ridder throw the ball to whoever at receiver in the fourth quarter of some of these games as he gets his reps then. Maybe even more. That might be disrespectful. He might get some third quarter reps. Not trying to make jokes. That's how it goes for quarterback 3. But the biggest moves were bringing in 2 defensive tackles to help fill out this interior defensive line room, something we've been critical of the Bengals for. Bringing in former first-round pick Taven Bryan, who's bounced around a few teams, but I remember Bryan coming out, and this was a guy that was an athletic, penetrating 3-tech type. Some people saw him as a 5-tech. I never did. But he can play some defensive end. He can kick out a little bit. There are some clips of him winning a little bit in a 3-4 defense at the 5-tech, or even all the way out in a 4-3 defense at end. But he is an athletic interior presence. He has been okay. He's been a solid pass rusher based on PFF grades. He'll get you 15 pressures and a couple sacks and 300 snaps or so. He can round out the bottom half of this defensive tackle room that I think needs it. We're hopeful for McKinley Jackson and Chris Jenkins, but really after BJ Hill, who Al Golden said is healthy and working out, so there's no concern there. After BJ Hill and TJ Slayton, you may want Tevin Bryan to be out on the field and providing some pass rush juice. You also don't want to give him all those reps. You don't want to give BJ Hill, TJ Slayton all these reps. Give those reps in camp to Chris Jenkins, McKinley Jackson, and then anything extra goes to Taven Bryan and McTelvin Agim, who was a former third-round pick of the Broncos, someone that we really liked in that draft class from the draft spreadsheet because he was athletic, he was a penetrator, he had good production in college. He never put it together. He needed to learn moves and just was a raw player, but just fell into a lot of production and created a lot of havoc plays. I remember watching him specifically and then at the Senior Bowl as well. And I thought McTelvin Agim can play. He's never done anything in this league, though. He's got a couple flashes, but other than that, really nothing for him. And it's at least a high pedigree or decent pedigree player added to that defensive tackle room. And maybe he can't do anything. Maybe he's just there to run around and be an athlete. But bringing in two athletes to that defensive tackle room, I've got no issue with that at all. In other news, Trey Hendrickson is still negotiating with the Bengals, trying to get a deal done, as we would all like that to happen. But there's movement, it sounds like. The Bengals made comments. Mike Brown said at the Mock Turtle Soup Day that he expects it to get done, but he's been wrong before. So, I mean, he sounds hopeful. Sounds like a hopeful fan. Duke Tobin said that he deserves a raise and deserves an extension. And then you get reports from Ian Rappaport, who said that talks have been had, offers have been exchanged, and one has been even as late as in the last day.
Expected to be there. Meanwhile, the Cincinnati Bengals also have some work to get done before things kick into gear for them. Trey Hendrickson, their excellent edge rushers, sack leader in the NFL last year, still wants a new contract, still wants to get paid, set to make $16 million this year. Not expected to play for that one. At least a raise likely is coming. The Bengals have made several offers, including a recent one over the course of the last couple of days. Today is a huge day for Trey Hendrickson and the Cincinnati Bengals. We'll see if they're able to get a deal done that features a big raise for him this year and potentially years after that. Of course, the clock is ticking for Cincy, as by the way it is.
Worth noting that Ari Merov, who's been very close with the Trey Hendrickson situation, I believe, based on what he's saying, he's got a line directly to Trey and is getting a lot of good information. But of the 33rd team, he put it on his podcast that the Bengals are still just offering the 1-year deal or a revised 2025 deal. Doesn't sound like they've gotten to multiple years of an offer. Sounds like that's Trey's biggest sticking point, is that he wants multiple years. He'd like money comparable to the guys that just signed deals. TJ Watt just signed, but $35 million or so, get him in the 30s, get him close to where those guys are. Doesn't have to be the top money, but multi-years. I think he wants that security. I think Ari alluded to that plenty of times over this entire saga that Trey's looking for security. He's looking for a long-term deal. And it doesn't sound like the Bengals have moved on that yet. So maybe that's where we see the movement over the next 24 to 48 hours to get Trey Hendrickson extended with the Cincinnati Bengals. In fun news, T. Higgins ranked 77th on the NFL Network's annual top 100 players of 2025. T has never been on the top 100 list. I think this makes sense. I don't think he was ever deserving of it, but you're talking about the elite players. Maybe 3 guys from each team make it if everything is even. But T is coming off in a fantastic year, his best year easily from an evaluation perspective, despite missing 5 games. I think T's got a chance to probably have his best statistical season this year. Let's see if he can stay healthy. If he could ever play 15, 16, 17 games, I have no doubt he'll put up his career best numbers. But from an evaluation perspective, T looked great last year, and there's no reason why he shouldn't carry that into 2025. Ranking 77th, we're still expected to see, obviously, Trey Hendrickson, Jamar Chase, and Joe Burrow. I don't think we'll see anyone else. Who would be the next guy? BJ Hill, Probably not. Orlando Brown Jr., probably not after, being injured. So that's about it for them. In the future, though, I bet here's my take. 2026 top 100, Chase Brown is going to be on that list. And in some player news, Dax Hill has been cleared, which was always expected, but you still have to go through the motion after last year's ACL injury, I believe in week 5. Dax was playing really well last year. We've talked about that a ton, but cleared for the first day of camp. Says his knee looks good. Everything looks good from the coaches and stuff that spoke at the Mock Turtle Soup. Zach Taylor saying Dax will be cleared, but where will he play? Will he be a boundary corner? Will he be a slot guy? Will he be a hybrid versatility? Will he play more safety? Al Golden scheme mixes and matches and moves guys all around. And I think the Bengals have that this year in the secondary, especially at corner, guys that can play every position. You don't have to worry about Mike Hilton only playing in the slot, even though Mike had versatility. All credit and respect to Mike Hilton. He played safety as well for the Bengals. But Dax could be one of the big players for this Bengals defense in 2025. It's good to see him cleared and on the field for day one. Remember, July 23rd, first day of camp for the Bengals, and that is open to the public. I don't have a Cincinnati trip scheduled for camp this year. I'd like to make it. We've got a Virginia Beach softball tournament that week for my daughter. So that's the fun family summer vacation. I want to give a shout out to you guys who voted, the season ticket holders that voted for Ring of Honor. I think you guys absolutely nailed it this year. Let's start with Lamar Parish, the Bengals corner that ranked number 10 in the greatest Bengals series, yes, that we did last summer. Lamar Parish was awesome, though. He's one of my most fun players that I watched when I went and reviewed old games. And this started the year before when I was counting down 100 days till kickoff. And I was doing the longest plays of each of those, so like the 99, 98, 95, what was the longest play the Bengals ever had. And Lamar Parish had a ton of them. And I'm like, this is a cornerback with all these punt returns, kick returns. I think he even had a receiving touchdown, but he had forced fumbles like crazy. I'm not going to get into all of it because I'm going to play that segment that we created last offseason, if you weren't watching the show then, and where Lamar Parish ranked number 10, but it's a few minute video for there. And we'll play that one at the end. And we'll also play, shout out to my colleague. What is this? What do I say? How about friend and coworker now under First Star Logistics? Dave Lapam has made it to the Bengals Ring of Honor. Congratulations, Dave. Lap is a guy that, obviously as the voice of the Bengals for so long, you kind of forget about his playing career, but he also made our top 25. I think he was like 22 in our greatest Bengals players. And so this deserving player, no doubt about it, but his post playing days, I think is what cemented it and why Bengals fans felt the need to vote for Lap, right? Because he voices and narrates and expresses a lot of our favorite Bengals memories over the last 30 years, which have been, other than the 90s being odd, there were some fun moments in the 90s, obviously, with a lot of touchdowns and a lot of passing. And it was the dark times. But since then, over the last 25 years, we've had a good time as Bengals fans. We don't have the rings to prove it, but, if you were there with us, we've had a lot of fun. So during Lap's tenure as the voice and being Mr. Bengal himself, he's narrated a lot of our favorite memories. And I can't say enough about the guy personally. Met him, never, very unassuming, did not make me feel small, did not make me feel like I wasn't at his level or I could talk ball with him or share a stage with him, working with First Star and doing our draft stuff. And he's been super welcoming and warm, very down-to-earth guy, super prepared. If you guys think these guys just show up and just rattle off because they've been around football their entire life, no. Dave Lapam is going to come with a notebook full of notes, full of programs and media guides and things to help him know who these players are and to give out this information at a rapid pace. Shout out to Dave, and a guy that I couldn't be more proud of you guys for voting and getting him in there. And who knows how much longer he's going to do this for, but so I'm happy that he's got the chance to do it while he's still an active, because to me, it's not just being a player. That's such a big part of it. He's an active content creator, broadcaster, analyst, all of those things. he's a big part of this online Bengals and in real life. But you know what I mean? When we're looking for someone like me that grew up in Buffalo, New York, looking for Bengals content, looking for stuff to read, stuff to watch, stuff to do, and be involved with the team somehow, Dave Lapam was a guy who set that standard and always had stuff coming out to watch and enjoy. So I'm going to play his first. Then we'll have Lamar Parish's videos. These are from last year's greatest Bengals series. And until next time on Bengals on the Brain, presented by First Star Logistics, we'll have camp news. Who dat? Right next to him. And coming in at number 23, I've already said it, is offensive guard, Dave Lapam.
The left guard, number 62, Dave Lapam.
The former third-round pick in the 1974 draft out of Syracuse, Dave Lapam would play for the Cincinnati Bengals for 10 seasons and play with a lot of these offensive linemen we've already gone over in this Top 100 series. And I called him a guard when introducing him, but Lap would play every single position on the Bengals offensive line and be their 1980 Man of the Year.
Their biggest contribution to the total team goal came when each supplied their muscle to secure a complementary ground game.
Right there, number 62, Dave Lapam pulling from his guard position. And that was what jumped out for me when watching him on tape, how athletic he was. We knew how he was in great shape. He was a gym rat. He loved to work out. It's what he knew. It's what he did. And he looked like he was in the best shape of anyone on the team.
Offense, which rolled up well over 400 yards, and the Cincinnati Express appeared to be back on the track. Ken Anderson completed 15 of 20, including a scoring pass to Isaac Curtis.
But he could also get nasty in the run game, get lower than these defensive tackles, get underneath them, especially in short yardage situations, and make space.
Tony Davis scored the game winner as the Bengals defeated the Packers 17-7 and prepared to move on to Pittsburgh for a Monday night encounter in a stadium where strange things always seem to happen. Although they outgained the Steelers by a wide margin, the Bengals again came up on the short end of the scoreboard. The game's leading rusher was Pete Johnson, who powered his way to the game's biggest touchdown. Booby Clark, who refused to be stopped by anyone. Only other Bengal to catch a pass was rookie tight end Jim Corbett, who caught two, one of them a touchdown, as the Bengals finally pulled themselves above 500 for the season.
Dave Lapam seemed well-liked by his teammates, always celebrating, bringing energy, one of the guys that's there to high-five and jump on his teammates and be part of the gang and keep the energy going. And it makes sense because he's a high-energy guy in the booth as an announcer as well. In Lap's 10 years with the Bengals, he would appear in 140 games starting 105. But you could also include 5 playoff game appearances, 1 in 75, 3 in 81, and 1 in 82.
Action. Anderson going for the bomb, and that's McAnally. All the way to the 6-yard line. First and goal for Cincinnati.
Lambert. Cole will remain as linebacker. Stanley Wilson joins Charles Alexander as a setback for Cincinnati. Alexander, hole over the left side, and this time he gets the first down. I
think the second factor is I've got a lot of great people playing around me.
A great offensive line and an outstanding group of receivers, headed by Isaac Curtis, number 85, the Bengals' all-time leading receiver.
An athlete, even in his final games with the Bengals, Lapam was always a powerful run blocker, a scrappy pass protector that could move laterally and even when it looked like he may be getting beat, he would find a way to get underneath and stave off that lineman from getting to his quarterback and hitting Kenny Anderson. So doing just enough, but being a plus athlete was an asset on this offensive line. And one thing I noticed in pass pro, it didn't seem like stunts and twists really affected him, right? He played with good technique, good balance, good hand usage, could pass guys off with his center or his tackle. And this is a guy that got accepted into Harvard. So he's very smart, and you can see him using that on the field.
4 filling in for Doug English, 2nd and 9. At the 20 into the tailback. Following Johnson, a good block and a big hole. First down.
After Lapam's retirement in 1986, he became an analyst and radio broadcaster for the Cincinnati Bengals.
9 yards of real estate will determine this playoff game. 4th down and goal from the 9. 17 seconds to go. The play clock at 3. Shotgun snap. Carr throws into traffic. Intercepted. Jermaine Pratt has the football. Coffin nails.
Bam, bam, bam. How about that?
This episode of In the Trenches with Dave Lapam brought to you by First Star Logistics. We're talking Freezer Bowl.
In the Bengals locker room with offensive lineman Trey Hopkins. And Trey, you've had an opportunity to show you. The Bengals are inducting 4 members into the Ring of Honor. No-brainers, every single one of them.
Quite a while. What was that day like for you? Were you in a different zone?
Well, you get in those periods, Dave, where, every receiver looks wide open and the whole...
Talking to Dave Lapam, former Bengal offensive lineman, played in a Super Bowl and has been with the Bengals radio network for over 30 years. I want to play a couple of clips here. How do you feel about listening to yourself when you listen to these highlights?
Hi again, everybody. I'm Dan Horde. He is Dave Lapam. It's time for Lap's Look, presented by Microsoft. This is where we use his telestrating skills to take a closer look at the Bengals' upcoming opponent, in this case, the Buffalo Bills.
Excited that Big Willie Anderson took the time to join us on our First Star Logistics In the Trenches videocast with Dave Lapam. Willie talked about how big he was.
Approaching 40 years as a broadcaster, Dave Lapam's brought the energy and the passion of a Bengals fan. At number 10 is Lamar Parish.
Headed up by Lamar Parish, number 20, the Cincinnati Bengals are deep and excellent athletes, all capable of making the super cat-quick moves required in pass coverage. Against Buffalo, the long road of frustration came to an end, and the spotlight fell squarely on rookie Lamar Parish, number 20. Parish sprinted for 2 tape measure touchdowns, one a 95-yard jaunt with a kickoff, the other an 83-yard trip with a blocked field goal.
Lamar Parish was a 7th-round pick in the 1970 draft, 163rd overall out of Lincoln College.
Parish spearheaded a stingy secondary.
More than just a corner with great ball skills, he was dangerous with the ball in his hands. You can see it. It's evident by his kick returns and punt returns and how often he scored when he did get the ball on defense as well. Lamar Parish was dangerous to throw against because if you did, you were risking that he had better ball skills than the wide receiver you were throwing to, and he routinely made plays on the ball.
79 yards with a punt to give the Bengals an early lead. After losing to the Chicago Bears last week on 2 late fumbles, Pittsburgh appeared willing to give away another game when Lamar Parish stole the ball from Preston Pearson and carried it in for a score.
Parish would play in Cincinnati for 8 seasons from 1970 through 1977, appearing in 105 games and starting 101 plus 3 playoff games in 70, 73, and 75. In those 8 years with the Bengals, Lamar Parish would make 6 Pro Bowls, 2 second-team All-Pros, and 1 first-team All-Pro. Talk about a dominant player in Bengals history.
While number 20 cornerback Lamar Parish did an excellent imitation of Lim Barney, the Bengals front four could have really taken it easy and just sat back and watched Lamar Parish, number 20, single-handedly destroy the Oilers. Parish intercepted 3 passes and turned the game into a red-faced rout. Parish picked off 1 sideline pass and galloped in for a score. "42 seconds later, following Cincinnati's kickoff, Houston quarterback Ed Baker tried another sideline pass, and Parish intercepted again and returned it for another touchdown.
In his 8 years with the Bengals, Parish would intercept 25 balls and return 4 for touchdowns. He'd force 15 fumbles and recover 10 more fumbles for 3 touchdowns.
Parish scooted in with it for 6.
Forcing Cleveland to kick the ball away to the game's most electrifying little man, Lamar Parish, number 20. In the 5 years since Lamar Parish entered the big time from Lincoln University in Missouri, no player has cut such a spectacular trail through the broken ranks of frustrated opponents, and none has surpassed this little bit of lightning.
In his time in Cincinnati, Parish would return 130 punts for a 9.2-yard average and score 4 touchdowns. He'd return 61 kicks for a 24.7 average and score 1 touchdown. In all, Parish would score 13 times with the Bengals.
Less than 6 minutes played, Lamar Parish fielded a punt on his 10 and turned on the Jets. When Lyle Blackwood, number 29, cut down Washington's last hope, Parish eased to a 90-yard touchdown. The Bengals blew open the game when Larry Smith fumbled and Lamar Parish zigged, then zagged back across the grain for his 2nd touchdown.
What their intimidation lacked in subtlety, their secondary made up for in daring, snatching one of Bradshaw's desperation aerials for 6 points.
Parish will go on to play 5 more years in the NFL, 4 with Washington and 1 with Buffalo. But in all, he would make 3 first-team All-Pros, 2 second-team All-Pros, and an 8-time Pro Bowler. He's also a member of the Bengals' 40th and 50th anniversary teams.
Bengals fans, tired of the same old post-game chatter? Want real insight beyond the scoreboard? Then you need Bengals on the Brain with Joe Goodberry, presented by First Star Logistics. Joe Goodberry isn't just a fan, he's a die-hard Bengals football analyst. Every week, Joe dives deep into the Bengals game film, breaking down the plays that mattered, revealing hidden strategies, and uncovering the true impact of individual performances. Get ready for post-game analysis like you've never heard before, player evaluations that go beyond the stats, and the most in-depth Bengals draft coverage on the internet. Don't just watch the Bengals, understand the Bengals. Subscribe to Bengals on the Brain with Joe Goodberry on the First Star Media Group's YouTube channel. Get smart, get obsessed, get Bengals on the Brain.